Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for listening to Hawk Update. I am Ryan Toffel, and here today I have with me my guest host, my co-host for the day, Jacob Genthner. Nice to have you, Jacob.
It's great to be here, Ryan. Great to be here.
So Jacob is a student at SUNY Fredonia and recently completed an internship at the New York State Senate. If you just want to kind of inform listeners on, what you did over the course of your internship and how it affected you. Like, what were your day-to-day tasks? Was it a big jump from school in the fall?
I'd say I accomplished a lot out in Albany. Moved out there about the beginning of January for the start of session. I was out there for 2 weeks before 2013 legislative session started. Some of my responsibilities, just everyday intern work, such as filing papers, stuffing letters. But probably the biggest thing I did was deal with constituent letters and constituents would write in about legislation, they'd say, I support such and such legislation for this reason. My job would be to respond to their concerns. I would say, give them a little bit of background information on the bill, if it's at the committee level, whether it's about to be voted on by the Senate, how the senator feels about that issue. And once I would draft the letter, it would go into review for the senator. She would look it over, make any changes she saw fit, and then I would print it out for signature. So it was a whole process. We had a folder system. But I learned a lot. I think I became a lot better writer because of that. But I worked on a lot of other things, too. I helped introduce a few bills. I worked on sponsor memos for bills. I also helped do a lot of research for talking points for the senator. That was pretty interesting. And
you were an intern under Kathy Young?
Yes. Senator, 57th Senate District in New York.
All right. And what, besides just working under her, what responsibilities were put on you as far as drafting your own, even if it was mock or just for practice? Did you have anything to do with your own type of legislation? Was there any actions that you took?
Well, the only actions I really took was, researching the bill that I wanted to do. I didn't really have any help with it, per se. I basically did all the research on my own, and it was through student programs, so it was separate from the office that I was working in. I didn't really work on my student programs project when I was in the office. I was really kept busy with stuff that was going on there.
And you presented a bill at the end of the semester?
Yeah. My bill had to do with preventing social services from paying for welfare recipients' speeding tickets. I actually found that out from my father, because he's the chief of police of Westfield. He let me know that was going on. It was something I felt pretty passionately about, and it was a no-brainer once I got out there and found out we were going to draft our own bill. I was like, oh, this is great.
So how did you argue your point, and was there any opposition? What were some common arguments you found of people who didn't quite agree with your bill?
Well, ignorance. No, I'm just joking with you. But how did I argue my bill? Well, I just made the argument that, there needs to be consequences to people's actions. That's what we have laws in place for. People can't go around breaking the law and expect the government to come bail them out because they don't have any money to pay for the fine. So what I did, I included a provision in my bill where if, in the opinion of the court, the said individual cannot afford the fine, then they can do community service to make up for what they did wrong.
So now, as it stands, welfare is received almost as a paycheck, so that people who receive are getting a certain amount of dollars, or
no. The way it was working was these people were receiving welfare, and on top of it, they would go to court, and this was separate money, extra money. They didn't even have to worry about the fine. A check was coming straight from social services to pay off this fine to the court.
So it wasn't welfare. It was from social services that would just pay the fine if they thought people couldn't afford it.
Yeah, that's right.
So your argument is that just because somebody is on welfare, actually, especially if they're on welfare, then they should, they shouldn't have any more help from the government paying for their irresponsible actions.
Well, I just think that they should be held equal before the law, just like anyone else. It doesn't matter that they're on welfare. I don't think the government should pay anyone's fines, whether they receive welfare or make $1 million a year.
So, what were some of the arguments against you while you were presenting this bill?
Well, I don't even think that I mean mostly it was New York City Democrats. I mean, what else do you expect? Anything having to do with welfare, and you're trying to take anything away from these welfare recipients, they get all bent out of shape about it. But I mean, some of the arguments they made against it was they felt that I would be unfairly targeting these welfare recipients because maybe some of them were disabled, and if they didn't have the money to pay for their ticket, they weren't able to perform community service. And, the argument I made to that was, well, maybe they shouldn't be breaking the law. They can set up a payment system just like anyone else, take money aside from their welfare check every month to pay off their fine. They don't need extra money coming in from the government.
So you mentioned the Democrat portion of New York State is especially prevalent in New York City. What about the idea of New York City becoming its own state? Do you think that would be beneficial to New York State as a whole?
Well, not to New York, to upstate New York, it would definitely be beneficial. And what's interesting is there's actually a bill in the Senate right now being considered that would create a referendum on that issue on the next election. If this bill was passed, there would be a question on the ballot that says, do you support the separation of New York City from the rest of the state? But I know that bill's still stuck in the committee level, and I highly doubt that the New York City-controlled Democratic Assembly would ever bring that up to a vote. So, I doubt that'll get passed. But, it is being considered by the legislator.
So, would you say it's fair to claim that you went into your internship as a pretty strict conservative?
Yeah, I would consider myself to be pretty conservative.
And were your views changed in any way while you were there, or?
I would say my views were strengthened.
Strengthened?
I realized what liberals were like in real life outside of the small town of Westfield.
And how did that help you become more, let's just say, strengthen your beliefs? How did their actions propel you to a stronger belief in conservatism?
I don't know, because it made me believe in, the individual self-responsibility. What the liberals are trying to sell is the argument that everyone needs a helping hand from the government, and, if you're down on your luck at all, you need a government handout. But the way I look at it is that promotes government dependency, and once people become dependent for a government handout, they don't do anything to better their lives. Which bettering their lives, I mean, such as furthering educational opportunities, trying to go out and get that extra job so you can save a little extra money next month, and once these people become dependent on government, they don't want to do that. They become content with sitting on the couch and receiving their handout every 2 weeks. Why do you think Walmart's packed at the beginning of the month? So, there's a lot of people out there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm conservative myself, and especially in economic terms, I think is where a lot of conservatives became conservative, is they saw the way that money is, just the value of it is really disregarded sometimes, and it's thrown around.
Oh, yeah, and you see that even more on the national level, for sure. I mean, the state government, we definitely spend way too much money, but, our spending is more under control than on the national level, where we're borrowing, I think it's something like 46 cents of every dollar we spend now, or something like that. It's insane.
All right, well, thank you for stopping by to talk with me, Jacob. We're just going to take a short break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
nothing is real but pain now. Hold my breath as I wish for death. Oh, please, God, wake me. Back in the room, it's much too real. In comes life that I must feel, but can't look forward to reveal. Look to the time when I live, head to the tune that sticks in me, just like a wartime novelty, tied to machines that make me be. Cut this life off from me. Hold my breath as I wish for death. Oh, please, God, wake me. Now the world is gone.
So, Jacob, you were telling me during the break that while you're in New York City, you had a little bit of a humorous experience answering one of the constituents. Why don't you go ahead and fill in the listeners to the details of your story?
Oh, yeah. Well, the great thing about working for Senator Young is that I'm actually from her district, Chautauqua County, and not a lot of people, some of the people that wrote in, I actually knew who they were. And one of such individuals was my old high school math teacher, and he ended up writing in about Governor Cuomo's recently passed SAFE Act, which put a lot of restrictions on gun ownership. Limited rounds from 10 rounds in a magazine down to 7. Turned a lot of weapons into what they consider assault weapons and banned them. And he wrote in, he was upset about it, but the reason it was funny is because he was one of the biggest characters in the school when I went to high school. He had a huge mustache, rode a Harley around.
Together, and I remember this man. He had like his tin cup that he would put like water and coffee in and stuff.
Yeah, he used to make us fill up his tin cup with water, and I remember all the kids joking around that they were going to go to the bathroom and fill it up with something else other than water. Oh, and he always made that sound. Every time he did a math problem, he'd go, boop, boop, boop.
And
Never
you
forget
could,
that noise.
Wait, you could take away his house or his kids, but you couldn't take away... What? Well, how did it go? I forgot how his famous saying... His horse. He loved his horse. So what was the saying in its entirety? What was the line, the famous line?
It was something about you can take away his kids in his house, but you can't take away his horse. He loves his horse. I don't know what was about his horses, but he had like a little ranch out in the middle of the country, and I think he had like a little store out of his house, if I remember correctly.
Yale Western Shop or something?
Yeah, I don't think business was very good.
It was right down the road from my house, and
out in the middle of nowhere, he's got a shop.
Yeah.
What the heck's he
I live, like, it couldn't get much more rural. I don't know. No,
not bad,
but it's just not enough traffic for a place for a business, and no one's gonna, search them out to go pay $3,000 for a saddle sometime or just.
Yeah, well, I remember the one time that we prank called him. We called up his number and said that we had horses on the side of the road and they were dying. They needed some hay really bad, and he started freaking out on the phone. He was going to bring it to us. I kind of felt bad afterwards, but I mean, you're in high school.
Okay.
Stuff.
So hang on, I have to tell this story. I'm going to tell this story. So we were on the bus back from a volleyball game. We went to the same high school volleyball teammates. And we were on the way back from a volleyball game, and our teammate Elias, we were prank calling everyone. We prank called Pizza Hut and played Harry Chapin into the phone.
Yeah.
And so our teammate Elias on the way back prank calls this math teacher, and he's like, my horse is sick. It's dying. It just needs some hay. And this math teacher, he seemed willing to bring it to us, okay, and it was hilarious. But one of my teammates, laughed so hard that they threw up.
I do remember that. That was hilarious.
So Jacob Genthner here was laughing so hard that he threw up on the bus on the way home.
Never laughed so hard in my entire life.
Puked all over the ground.
I think I puked up 30,000 pounds of bananas that
The
night.
Harry Chapin song that we were playing into the Pizza Hut phone. Oh yeah. Oh, that was so funny. I couldn't. Just all of a sudden, you threw up. Like it was. But we were all laughing so.
It was projectile.
Laughing so hard. It was. Oh my goodness, one of the funniest moments of my life. So he wrote in and complained about the legislature, gun control.
About the gun control law. That was a big issue in New York State during the session.
And you said the SAFE Act, I believe it was called, passed at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people were upset about that. I remember, I mean, that was like my third week in the office, and actually what ended up happening was our phones were busy constantly all day for like a week after that. People just calling in, screaming at us on the phone, and you know what I tell them? I was like, the senator, she strongly opposed this legislation. I'll pass your concerns along to her. We're doing everything we can to, get it repealed, even though that's not going to happen. But, you got to tell them something. But, yeah, it was not good what happened in New York. A lot of people were upset, and it was another one of those things pinning upstate New York against downstate. New York City's all about gun control. Upstate New York's all about, they love hunting. It's the gun culture. But because, New York City politicians outnumber, the rest of New York, they can get legislation
and
like
Cuomo
that
passed it so fast that he was under a lot of scrutiny. He was kind of seen as just trying to get attention for himself and reestablish him to get reelected.
You don't need 10 bullets to kill a deer. Everyone remembers that from his State of the State address.
So, on that note, we will take a little bit of a break and be back in just a few minutes.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. With a load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. That good ship and true was a bone to be chewed when the gales of November came early. The ship was the pride of the American side, coming back from some mill in Wisconsin. As the big freighters go, it was bigger than most, with a crew and good captain well seasoned, concluding some terms with a couple of steel firms when they left fully loaded for Cleveland. Then later that night when the ship's bell rang, could it be the north wind they'd been feeling? The wind in the wires made a tattletale sound when the wave broke over the railing. And every man knew, as the captain did too, 'twas the witch of November come stealing. The dawn came late and the breakfast had to wait when the gales of November came slashing. When afternoon came, it was freezing rain in the face of a hurricane west wind. When supper time came, the old cook came on deck saying, "Fellas, it's too rough to feed you." At 7 p.m. a main hatchway caved in. He said, "Fellas, it's been good to know ya." The captain wired in, he had water coming in, and the good ship and crew was in peril. And later that night when his lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. To
Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? The searchers all say they'd have made Whitefish Bay if they'd put 15 more miles behind her. They might have split up or they might have capsized. They may have broke deep and took water. And all that remains is the faces and the names of the wives and the sons and the daughters. Lake Huron rolls, Superior sings in the rooms of her ice water mansion. Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The islands and bays are for sportsmen. And farther below, Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send her. The iron boats go, as the mariners all know, with the gales of November remembered. In a musty old hall in Detroit they prayed in the Maritime Sailors' Cathedral. The church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald. The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. Superior, they said, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early.
Ryan Tofu back here on Hawk Update with my guest co-host for the day, Jacob Genthner, who is recently back from an internship in Albany, served under Kathy Young in the New York State Senate. Jacob, just inform me a little bit, how do you think that your internship prepared you for going back to a school setting next Fredonia, hitting the books, sitting in a classroom again? You think it's going to change your perspective at all?
Oh, I think the great thing about it was I got, experience in a professional work environment, which I think will help me after Fredonia. After I graduate, I can, put that on a resume. I have a letter of recommendation from a senator, which I think, will help me out a lot once I graduate college. But how it helped me out with going back to Fredonia for my senior year, I think it helped me become a lot better writer. I talked about earlier about writing a lot of constituent letters. That definitely helped me out a lot. And also with researching a lot of talking points. I had to coordinate with different government agencies, trying to get statistics from them, going through enormous amounts of information, trying to find out what's important, what's going to help the senator out on this specific bill. So I think, it really helped tone my research skills too, going back to Fredonia for my senior year, which will help for when I have to do my senior project in the spring. But I also think it helped with my communication skills. I would say I was on the phone a lot, talking with a lot of different people. I think I learned how to communicate better with people, which is very important today. And so I think it helped me out a lot, not only with going back to Fredonia next year, but also once I graduate and I'm looking for a job. I think the experience was invaluable.
So you are going to Fredonia next semester, as I've said a couple of times. I'll be joining you. What are your thoughts on club volleyball?
I've been thinking about it. I don't know. It's a possibility. I haven't played volleyball too competitively
No, we
since
were
high
good
school.
in high school, though.
You know,
Like,
it's
some
kind
of the
a
teams
joke
we
back
played were
then,
not
too,
good.
so.
But if you put us in a full, 30-game season instead of the 10-game season we played, and you gave us a good coach, we could have done some damage, man. We had a lot of athletes on that team.
That's true. Yeah, we did have a lot of athletes. We were pretty good at volleyball, but I would just say I'm an average volleyball player. I don't think I'm good enough to be on
Well, but
Division
Fredonia
III
State
college
Club volleyball,
team, that's for
I've
sure.
looked into it, and they say all skill levels are welcome. So I'm going to be pestering you over the summer to try to find time for that. But it is important these days to have
We'll
a
see,
job
we'll see.
for students, to have a job during school, because a bachelor's degree doesn't guarantee what it used to. People, just graduates I've talked of Hilbert College,
Oh, definitely.
that I've talked to, they one girl I spoke to graduated last year with a 3.9 average, and she has not been able to find a job. She works at Lasertron for $12 an hour, I think it is, and it's just, that's the way it goes. I'd say that a bachelor's degree is kind of what a high school diploma used to be.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. Talking with the other intern that I worked with in Senator Young's office, she recently graduated from law school, actually, and she was telling me she went to NYU for her undergraduate. I can't remember where she went to law school, but she told me she was over $100,000 in debt, and she had no job lined up for after her internship. And it's not like she didn't have experience. She had interned in a DA's office in Long Island. She had interned with a congressman out in Washington, and then she was interning with Senator Young. And as a lawyer, she had no job opportunities. And, she went to a good college, and she had a lot of experience. So, the job market, it's tough out there. I don't think people really realize what they're getting into when they sign up for a 4-year college. You're not guaranteed a job anymore coming out of school.
I think that is kind of what was fed to us as we were in high school, graduating, making our college decisions, is that, they told us, you go to college, you'll be fine, but
Oh, yeah.
it's been within the last 5 or so years that students have really, really had difficulty finding jobs, and well-paying jobs after graduating. A 4-year degree just isn't carrying a lot of weight these days.
And it's too bad, because these kids, like you said, they're made all these lofty promises by, like, guidance counselors in high school and their teachers that, oh, if you go to college, you're going to be coming out of school making 50,000, 60, 70, 80 grand. Oh, that's not true. I think what you really need to do today is start to research into different professions and see what the job market is like for different professions before just, say, going to school for a certain major just because you're going to get a bachelor's degree. And you think that's
Very
going
well
to land
put.
you a
All right,
job.
we're going to take a break for a few minutes, and when we come back, we're going to be talking some less serious topics. We will be diving into the entertainment industry, sports in particular, and we will have a little NFL opinion for you from Jacob Genthner, and he's going to analyze the draft, the recent NFL draft, for you just a little bit. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Sitting on the park bench, eyeing little girls with fat and spit. Snot's running down his nose, greasy fingers smearing shabby clothes. Hey, Aqualung, drying in the cold sun, watching as the pretty panties run. Hey, Aqualung, feeling like a dead duck, spitting out pieces of his broken love. Oh, Aqualung, time the only way he knows. Their curtain bed as it bends to pick a dog end. It goes down to the bog and warms his feet. Feeling alone, the armies of the road, salvation at a moat and a cup of tea. Aqualung, my friend, don't just start away uneasy. You poor old sod, you see it's only me. Do you still remember a December's foggy freeze when the ice that clings onto your beard was screaming agony? Hey, and you snatch your rattling last breaths with deep sea diver sounds, and the flowers bloom like madness in the spring. Sun streaking cold, an old man wandering lonely, taking time the only way he knows. Leg hurting bad as he bends to pick a dog end. He goes down to the bog and warms his feet. Feeling alone, the armies of the road, salvation at a moat and a cup of tea. Aqualung, my friend, don't you start away uneasy. You poor old sod, you see it's over me. Aqualung, my friend, don't just start away uneasy. You poor old sod, you see it's only me. Sitting on the park bench, eyeing little girls with bad intent.
And we are back here on Hawk Update. I'm Ryan Toffel, joined today by Jacob Genthner. Time for some sports talk. The 2013 NFL Draft. You need a quarterback. You're picking 16th. Geno Smith, Matt Barkley, Ryan Nassib, all still on the board, and you pick...
Not E.J. Emanuel, that's for sure.
E.J. Manuel from Florida State, the quarterback, picked by the Buffalo Bills, and a lot of people unhappy with that.
You know, the funny thing about it is I was talking with my friends who are, they're all Bills fans. We're from Western New York. They love the Bills. And the thing about these Bills fans is that at the moment they hate the pick, and then all of a sudden, an hour later, they're justifying to everyone else in the room why it's such a great pick, trying to make themselves feel better in a way about this quarterback pick, even though they know it's a repeat of J.P. Lossman, Trent Edwards, and now E.J. Manuel. He's the next bust, the next Jamarcus Russell.
So he was picked 16th overall. Let's go down into the fourth round. 98th overall pick, Philadelphia Eagles got Matt Barkley, who had he come out of college a year earlier, probably would have been the number one overall pick. Let's move down the list about 10 more spots. It is the New York Giants took Ryan Nassib. So two quarterbacks who many saw more value in than E.J. Manuel were taken 98th and 110th in the draft, and the Bills picked Manuel at number 16.
Oh, and I mean, I'm not, a Mel Kiper, but I don't think Manuel was going in the first round, probably not even going in the second round. It was a terrible pick for the Bills. I think it ruined their entire draft, honestly. There was a lot of quality players available there that the Bills should have chosen. I mean, they had gaping holes on the offensive line, gaping holes on at linebacker, at cornerback. There was a lot of better players there that they should have chosen that would have filled a need right now, instead of getting a quarterback that they could have easily gotten in the second or third round, or gotten a quarterback of the same exact value, maybe even better.
Yeah, I mean, they've got quarterbacks for days on their roster right now. They have Tavares Jackson and Kevin Kolb.
Yeah.
Who Kolb they just traded for, and then they go and draft another quarterback. So you, a big Indianapolis Colts fan, why don't we hear your evaluation on the Colts draft?
Well, I thought the Colts did a great job in the draft. They addressed the need at outside linebacker with Bjorn Werner out of FSU. I think he's going to be a great pass rusher for the Colts, filling in for Dwight Freeney, who recently left the team. And, he's basically a legend in Indianapolis. But the Colts addressed a lot of needs at offensive and defensive line. They didn't have a second-round pick because they traded for Vontae Davis of Miami Dolphins last year, which ended up being a great trade for them, actually. He was a great cornerback for them. But in the third round, they ended up getting Hugh Thornton, an offensive guard. He looks like an absolute animal. I think he's pushing 350 pounds, like 6'7". The Colts haven't had that big of a lineman in a long time. And then in the fourth round, they ended up going with Khalid Holmes from USC, and he's a center, which was another need for them. So I was pretty happy with the Colts draft.
The Colts getting a little bit of help for Andrew Luck. How has it been being a Colts fan since Peyton Manning left?
That was a rough year. I had a few tears in my eyes. I still remember that press conference with the great Peyton Manning. Never forget that day. I tried to go to games 2 separate times to watch Peyton Manning play when he was still on the team, and he did not play either of those times. And if you think about how many games he started and the chances there were of that happening, slim to none.
Yeah, they go into a Packers game in 2005 and not seeing Brett Favre.
Exactly.
Just ridiculous. But now on their roster, leading the charge, quarterback Matt Hasselbeck.
Yes, they did sign Matt Hasselbeck, but I believe to a backup role.
Of course, to Andrew Luck, who many people thought was second or maybe even third in rookie quarterback play last year behind Robert Griffin and Russell Wilson from Seattle.
Well, I don't think he got the credit he deserved, and I know I'm a little biased here, but he took a team that had 2 wins the year before and turned around and made them an 11-win team with no offensive line and all rookies at skill positions besides Reggie Wayne. I think it was people don't give him the credit he deserves. You look at Griffin, you look at Russell Wilson, they had good systems in place coming in where they could be successful. Not only that, they had good defenses. I can't even name anyone outside of Mathis or Freeney on the team that anyone outside of being a Colts fan would know of on the defense.
And so last year, Andrew Luck took the Colts to the playoffs. I mean, and I honestly think, I'm not a Colts fan, but that Andrew Luck, I don't even really understand how you could make an argument for Griffin or Russell Wilson. I mean, the Seahawks have always been a solid team. You know, it seems like they're somewhere between 7 and 10 wins every year. They'll have a down year occasionally, or they'll have a really good year and make the Super Bowl once in a while. But they definitely have a much more solid roster around the rookie quarterback than the Colts did. And Andrew Luck took his team to the playoffs, which I think, I don't know, I just feel like a lot of people looked at his stats, they saw the interceptions, and they kind of used that as an excuse to put him behind Griffin and Russell Wilson, maybe because they're more explosive players. They're exciting, young, scrambling quarterbacks, and that's what people want to see, as opposed to, I don't know, maybe just the prototypical quarterback is getting a little boring because we've been watching it for 40 years in the NFL now.
Well, I wouldn't say that Luck is the prototypical quarterback. What people don't realize about him is he ran like I believe a 4.4 40 time at the combine before he was drafted. He's a fast guy. He actually rushed for a decent amount of yards last year, and he's actually a pretty mobile quarterback. He's always escaping the rush, and a lot of it's due to a terrible offensive line. But I think you're right. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, and hopefully this year he can prove everyone wrong. And who knows if Griffin's even going to be ready for the season. You got to take that into consideration too. Their play styles. Griffin could only be in the league for 5 years with the way he plays the game. He's getting thrown around the field, and he seems to have a pretty fragile body for the most part. Already tore an ACL in his rookie season.
So let's just assume that Andrew Luck turns it on, takes the Indianapolis Colts to the Super Bowl. Who are they going to be playing? Who's your pick out of the NFC?
Well, I'd be very happy if the Colts made the Super Bowl. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, but honestly, I could see the 49ers going back to the Super Bowl this year. They're loaded. They have a great team. Their defense is just, it's out of control. There's no one on their defense there's no weaknesses there at all. And their offense, they've got Kaepernick. He can run. He can throw. They got Frank Gore at running back, Crabtree at wide receiver. It's hard to stop them. I don't see anyone stopping them. But, then again, crazy things happen in the NFL every year. There's always a few teams that you think are going to be great, don't end up being great, or teams you think are going to be terrible end up being one of the best teams. So I think it's hard to say still.
Yeah, a lot of a lot of even so-called experts are completely wrong about the final standings in the NFL. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles last year. A lot of people picked them to win their division. They ended up going 4-12 in 2012. But this year, they are looking good. They did draft Matt Barkley. Michael Vick, let's see what he can do, man. Maybe he gets healthy and has one more good year in him. LaShawn McCoy is getting better and better and better. And their wide receivers, when they're playing well, are some of the best in the game, with Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin as their primary options.
Yeah, I'm still a believer in Vic. I think he was, a lot of his problems came from the offensive line. I think they had one of the worst offensive lines in the league. No one could protect him. That's why he was injured all year. He was getting thrown around the field, kind of like Griffin.
The Eagles, and this will be their first season without Andy Reid, who I believe was the longest tenured coach in the NFL at that point.
Yeah, he was there a long time.
He was there since, I believe, the 1998 season. Maybe 99. Got there about the same time as Donovan McNabb, and McNabb's been out of the league for 2 years now.
Yeah.
So Andy Reid was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles for pushing 20. No, not 20 years.
Yeah, he brought them to a Super Bowl, too, that they should have won.
Well, but still, 12, 15 years. 20, my math was a little off there. But 12, 15 years as a head coach in the NFL, that is
impressive.
Unheard of. And they did lose to the New England Patriots in a Super Bowl. That was brutal. That was brutal for me. In 2005 Super Bowl, I was in 7th grade, and they lost to the Patriots by 3. The Patriots' 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years by a combined winning margin of 9 points.
And it's important to note that this was before Spygate came out, so I think there's still a lot of questions around these Super Bowl victories for the Patriots.
Honestly, the New England Patriots can do whatever they want. I will never give them any credit.
Me neither.
Tom Brady, listen, man, he thinks he's so good. His defense won him 3 Super Bowls.
And he has no class, making comments about Buffalo, saying there's no good hotels there, good enough for him to grace his presence with, or things such as Bill Belichick not going to shake the hand of John Harbaugh after they lost to the Patriots in the championship game. And then he refuses to talk to the media afterwards. He's a sore loser.
Yeah, with the Patriots lost to the Ravens, and he wouldn't shake Harbaugh's hand. How do you feel about the Baltimore Ravens taking home the championship last year? I don't know. I'm not really a big Ravens fan. Not really a Ray Lewis fan. Just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, not mine either. I mean, the Ravens, they got hot at the right time. It should have been the Broncos. Should have been another Super Bowl for Peyton Manning, but it was a blown coverage, if you remember, in that divisional game to Jacoby Jones, that bomb. I believe there was only 20 seconds left in that game when that happened.
And as
double coverage, too. Just let it slip by.
The defensive backs somehow, I mean, you have to know the situation. The Ravens were able to put it into overtime when Jacoby Jones slipped behind double coverage. I don't know, with
Champ Bailey being one of the corners, too.
With less than a minute remaining in the game, you cannot let a receiver get behind you. Like, it's just absurd.
And nonetheless, Champ Bailey, one of the greatest cornerbacks of all time. He's legendary. It blew my mind. And, I don't think it was Peyton's fault. But I don't know. Honestly, who I see coming out of the AFC this year is the Broncos. I think they're going to be a great team this year. They just picked up Wes Welker to add to Eric Decker and I can't think of the other guy's name.
Marshall?
No.
No. It's not. No, Brandon Marshall used to play for the Broncos.
Yeah. But anyways, the Broncos have a lot of options in the passing game with Peyton Manning. They still have Willis McGahee, so I think they're going to have a great year.
I think it's going to be hard to beat the Houston Texans. Also,
I think they're overrated.
They're solid though. Matt Schwab is a decent quarterback. He is a quarterback who is good enough.
That's the thing, is that he's a decent quarterback. He will never do anything to take your team over the hump. He's not a Peyton Manning. He's not a Tom Brady. He's not a Drew Brees. He doesn't have that it factor about him that pushes his team over the top to get a championship. I think he proved that in the playoffs last year. Goes up against Tom Brady, blows it. That was his time to shine. If he wanted to prove he was going to be a great quarterback, he had a great defense that year, the best running game in the league, one of the top wide receivers in Andre Johnson, and he goes out and lays an egg in New England, gets blown out by like 30 points.
Demaryius Thomas.
Yes.
Is who we were trying to think of, and I said Brandon Marshall. I know Brandon Marshall is still in the league right now. He played for the Broncos.
He's on the Bears now.
Oh, yeah.
He had a great season last year with the Bears.
He did.
He's still one of the top receivers in the league.
Yeah, it was
no
with
one can cover him.
The Dolphins. He had some down years with the Dolphins.
I wouldn't say down years. I would just say good years. He just wasn't as great as he was with Denver. Now I would say he's back in form with Chicago and Jay Cutler.
Pulled up his stats. He had 11 touchdowns last year and 1,500 yards, and he just completely slipped my mind. I thought he was on the wrong team. So that's a little bit embarrassing. He did rush for -2 yards, though, so better cut him. All right, we will take a short break and be back with you a few minutes. Ryan Toffel and Jacob Genthner with me here hosting Hawk Update. hosting Hawk Update with my guest host for the week, Jacob Genthner. We've been over a lot in this hour. Your time with the Senate, what it's going to mean for furthering your education. We've talked a little politics. We've talked a little high school sports stories with you vomiting on the bus after a hilarious prank call to our high school math teacher who ended up writing you while you're at the Senate. Talk some NFL. Pick for the Super Bowl is the Philadelphia Eagles over the Indianapolis Colts, 50-3. And that just pretty much brings us to the end of our segment. Any final words here, Jacob?
I just want to thank you for bringing me on the show. I had a great time today. Great talking with you about my internship and football. You know, everyone loves talking about football. Can't wait for the season to get started, and it's only May.
Yeah, 4 months from today, the season starts. Today is May 8th, and the season starts September 8th. And, well, I don't think the whole season starts the 8th, actually. I'm going to correct myself. The opening Sunday is September 8th. And the New England Patriots will be in Buffalo to play the Bills. So that brings us to the end of this week's edition of Hawk Update. Thank you, everybody, very much for listening, all three of you. I am Ryan Toffel. With me this week was Jacob Genthner.